Most families believe they will recognize when something truly important changes. They trust they will notice it right away. But in real life, many of the most meaningful shifts do not arrive loudly. They arrive quietly. Very quietly. So quietly that they are often explained away as just getting older. A parent calls less often. They seem more tired than before. Meals become smaller. Sleep patterns slowly drift. Nothing feels urgent. Nothing feels dramatic. Because of that, these changes are easy to overlook. What many people don't realize is this. Small shifts can slowly reduce resilience. They can narrow daily routines. They can gently strain the mind. They can weaken the body over time. And this can happen without anyone noticing a clear moment of change. This video is not about fear. It is not about predicting outcomes. And it is not about making medical judgments. It is about awareness. When changes happen gradually, families often adapt without questioning them. Life quietly adjusts. Expectations slowly lower. Before anyone realizes it, independence has already softened. In many homes, this leads to quiet regret. Not because anyone failed. Not because anyone didn't care. But because no one knew these signs mattered. The truth is simple. Aging rarely changes life all at once. Instead, it reshapes life slowly. Through ordinary patterns. Through harmless-looking habits. Through behaviors that make sense at the time. In this video, we'll explore 5 subtle signs that often appear after 60. Signs that many families miss. Not out of neglect, but because they don't look serious at first. By noticing these signs earlier, something important becomes possible. A calmer response. More understanding. And more dignity. And often, more time with quality still intact. Let's begin with the first sign. It often looks like a personal choice, but it can quietly change everything. Sign 1. Quiet withdrawal from social life. This is often the first sign families notice. It is also the easiest one to dismiss. An older adult begins to say no more often. They skip gatherings they once enjoyed. Phone calls become shorter. Replies arrive later than before. At first, this feels like a personal preference. They just enjoy quiet now. They are slowing down, and that is normal. Sometimes, that explanation fits. But when withdrawal increases gradually, something deeper may be unfolding. Social connection plays a quiet role in healthy aging. Conversation keeps the mind active. Shared routines give days structure. Human contact supports emotional balance. When these connections fade, the effects are rarely sudden. There is no clear warning. No dramatic moment. Instead, life begins to narrow. Days feel more repetitive. The outside world feels further away. Motivation slowly weakens. Many families adjust without realizing what is happening. They visit less, assuming space is wanted. They stop inviting, to avoid pressure. Over time, fewer interactions become the new normal. For the older person, the change often feels subtle. Energy levels decline. Confidence in social settings softens. Simple outings begin to feel tiring. This is not about obvious loneliness. It is about reduced stimulation. It is about fewer moments that engage the mind. Without regular interaction, thinking becomes quieter. Opinions are shared less often. Curiosity fades little by little. Daily life may still look calm from the outside. But inside, variety has decreased. One family noticed this only in hindsight. Their mother stopped attending monthly dinners. She said evenings felt long. At first, no one questioned it. It sounded reasonable. It sounded practical. Months later, something else became clear. She spoke less about her week. Her stories were shorter. Her interests seemed narrower. Nothing appeared wrong. There was no crisis. But something had shifted. Social withdrawal often creates a gentle cycle. Less contact lowers energy. Lower energy leads to more withdrawal. Over time, this cycle reduces resilience. Importantly, this sign is easy to misunderstand. It does not always look concerning. It does not look distressing. Sometimes, it looks calm. Sometimes, it looks sensible. Sometimes, it even looks peaceful. That is why it is missed. Noticing this sign does not mean forcing social activity. It does not mean pushing busy schedules. It does not mean constant interaction. It means observing patterns over time. It means noticing gradual change. It means staying gently present. Because once social connection fades too far, rebuilding becomes harder. When this shift is noticed earlier, options remain. Options for balance. Options for choice. Options that support independence. Social life does not need to be full. It only needs to feel meaningful. When meaningful connection quietly fades, quality of life often follows. And this sign rarely appears on its own. It often sits beside another subtle change. One that families tend to explain away just as easily. Sign 2. A persistent drop in energy and motivation. This sign often appears quietly. It usually follows social withdrawal. Sometimes, it appears at the same time. An older adult seems tired more often. Not just after busy days, but even after simple routines. They rest more during the day. They move more slowly. Small tasks feel heavier than before. At first, this feels normal. Of course they have less energy. That's just part of aging. And again, sometimes that is true. But when low energy becomes persistent, it deserves attention. This is not about being busy or overworked. It is about energy that does not return, even after rest. Motivation often changes alongside energy. Activities once enjoyed feel less appealing. Starting things feels harder. This does not always look like sadness. It does not always look like frustration. Often, it looks like quiet acceptance. Plans are postponed. Hobbies fade into the background. Days feel shorter, even when they are not. Families may notice this slowly. A parent stops gardening. They stop walking as far as before. They still function. They still manage daily life. But enthusiasm is missing. Energy plays a central role in independence. It supports movement. It supports thinking. It supports decision-making. When energy declines, life contracts. This change rarely happens overnight. It develops gradually, often unnoticed. Many families adjust their expectations. They do more for their loved one. They step in earlier. This comes from care. It comes from kindness. But it can also hide an important shift. Over time, reliance increases. Confidence decreases. Self-trust weakens. One son shared a quiet concern. His mother stopped cooking full meals. She said standing felt tiring. Soon after, she stopped shopping alone. Then she stopped suggesting outings. Nothing dramatic happened. There was no single reason. Energy had simply declined. Persistent low energy can strain the mind. Focus becomes harder to maintain. Decision-making takes more effort. The body also responds. Muscles weaken with less use. Balance becomes less stable. This is how energy loss quietly reduces resilience. Importantly, this sign is easy to misread. It can look like rest. It can look like contentment. Sometimes, it even looks sensible. That is why it is often ignored. Noticing this sign does not mean pushing activity. It does not mean demanding effort. It does not mean ignoring limits. It means noticing patterns. It means observing duration. It means seeing whether energy ever returns. Because when low energy becomes constant, options begin to narrow. Earlier awareness allows gentler choices. Choices that support autonomy. Choices that protect dignity. This is a good moment to pause. If someone came to mind while listening, that matters. If this feels familiar, you are not alone. Many families notice these changes quietly. If you find this helpful, consider staying with us. Subscribe if you want calm, thoughtful discussions like this. Sharing can also help someone else notice sooner. Small awareness can make a meaningful difference. Energy and motivation shape daily life. When they decline, life feels smaller. But when noticed early, balance can be supported. And this change often connects to another quiet shift. One that affects the body in a different way. One that many families also explain away. Sign 3. Subtle changes in appetite and eating habits. This sign often develops quietly. It is rarely noticed right away. An older adult begins eating less. Portions become smaller. Meals take longer to finish. Sometimes, meals are skipped altogether. Not from intention, but from lack of interest. At first, this feels harmless. They just don't feel as hungry. They're eating lighter, which is healthy. And sometimes, that explanation fits. But when appetite continues to fade, it can signal deeper changes. Eating is not only about nutrition. It is tied to routine. It is tied to pleasure. It is tied to energy. When appetite decreases, daily structure often weakens. Meals lose their place in the day. Cooking feels like effort. Shopping feels unnecessary. Over time, weight may slowly drop. Clothes fit differently. Strength begins to soften. This does not happen suddenly. There is no clear starting point. It happens gradually. Families may not notice at first. They see plates left unfinished. They assume tastes have changed. But appetite loss can quietly strain the body. With less fuel, energy declines. With less protein, muscles weaken. With fewer nutrients, recovery slows. This affects balance. It affects immunity. It affects resilience. Eating habits also support the mind. Meals provide stimulation. They create moments of engagement. When eating becomes minimal, these moments fade. One partner shared a gentle concern. Her husband stopped preparing breakfast. He said mornings felt rushed. Soon, lunch became optional. Dinner portions grew smaller. He said he felt fine. But he tired more easily. Walks became shorter. Nothing seemed alarming. But something was changing. Loss of appetite can also affect mood. Enjoyment decreases. Motivation softens. Food once brought comfort. Now it feels neutral. Sometimes, it feels like a task. This sign is often misunderstood. It does not look serious. It does not cause immediate problems. Sometimes, it even looks sensible. That is why it is missed. Noticing this sign does not mean forcing food. It does not mean pressuring meals. It does not mean strict rules. It means noticing patterns. It means watching duration. It means asking gentle questions. Is appetite returning sometimes? Or is it steadily declining? Because prolonged appetite loss can quietly weaken the body. Earlier awareness allows support. Support that respects choice. Support that maintains dignity. Eating does not need to be perfect. It needs to be sufficient. And it needs to be consistent. When nourishment quietly fades, strength often follows. And this change rarely stands alone. It often appears alongside another subtle shift, one that affects how the mind works day to day. Sign 4. Subtle changes in thinking and mental sharpness. This sign is often the hardest to notice. It is also the hardest to talk about. Changes in thinking rarely arrive suddenly. They develop quietly, often over months or years. An older adult may forget recent conversations. They may repeat questions. They may misplace familiar items. At first, these moments seem harmless. Everyone forgets things. Everyone has distracted days. And sometimes, that explanation is enough. But when these moments become more frequent, something else may be happening. Mental sharpness supports daily life in many ways. It helps with planning. It supports judgment. It allows confidence in everyday decisions. When thinking becomes less clear, daily tasks require more effort. This does not mean constant confusion. It does not mean severe impairment. Often, it looks like hesitation. An older adult pauses longer before answering. They need more time to process information. They struggle with fast conversations. Busy environments feel overwhelming. Noise feels tiring. Crowded places feel stressful. Families may notice subtle avoidance. A parent avoids phone calls. They avoid unfamiliar situations. They prefer routines they already know. They resist change. They say things feel too complicated. This can look like stubbornness. It can look like personality. It can look like normal aging. But beneath it, mental effort has increased. Thinking now takes more energy. Focus fades faster. Mental fatigue arrives sooner. This can quietly affect confidence. When mistakes happen more often, people pull back. They speak less. They contribute less. They may avoid situations where mistakes feel visible. One partner noticed this gradually. Her husband stopped managing household finances. He said the numbers felt confusing. At first, she helped occasionally. Later, she took over completely. Then she noticed other shifts. He avoided planning trips. He deferred decisions more often. Nothing dramatic happened. There was no single event. Responsibility simply shifted. These changes often arrive alongside other signs. Lower energy, reduced appetite, less social engagement. Together, they place strain on mental resilience. Mental sharpness is closely linked to stimulation. Conversation challenges the brain. Problem solving keeps it active. When stimulation decreases, thinking can slow further. This creates a quiet cycle. Reduced confidence leads to avoidance. Avoidance reduces stimulation. Reduced stimulation weakens mental sharpness. Over time, daily life feels smaller. Importantly, this sign does not always look worrying. It can look calm. It can look peaceful. Sometimes, it looks like someone becoming easier going. That is why families often miss it. Many people adapt without realizing what is happening. They simplify conversations. They repeat instructions. They take over tasks. They make decisions to help. This usually comes from care, from kindness, from love. But it can also hide an important shift. Over time, autonomy softens. Self-trust declines. Mental independence fades. The older person may notice this internally. They may feel slower. They may feel less capable. But they often do not say it aloud. Instead, they withdraw. They let others lead. They accept less responsibility. From the outside, life looks calm. Inside, effort has increased. One adult child described this moment. I thought Mum was just quieter. I didn't realize how much thinking tired her. That understanding came later than expected. Many families share similar reflections. This sign is not about labels. It is not about diagnosis. It is not about fear. It is about awareness. Noticing mental changes early allows gentle support. Support that respects dignity. Support that keeps choice involved. Simple adjustments can make a difference. Clear routines. Unhurried conversations. Reduced pressure. Time to think matters. Being heard matters. Feeling capable matters. These supports work best when introduced early. When mental strain continues unnoticed, recovery feels harder. This sign can also affect emotional balance. Frustration increases. Patience shortens. People may withdraw to avoid embarrassment. They may avoid discussion. They may avoid opinions. Over time, silence replaces engagement. That silence is often misunderstood as calm. If this sounds familiar, pause for a moment. Notice who came to mind. That awareness matters. If you find this discussion helpful, consider staying with us. Subscribe for calm, respectful conversations about aging. Sharing may help another family notice sooner. Awareness is not about taking control. It is about understanding change. Mental sharpness does not need to be perfect. It needs patience. It needs support. When thinking is supported, confidence often returns. When confidence is protected, independence lasts longer. And this sign often connects to another quiet change. One that affects rest and recovery. One that shapes how days and nights unfold. Sign 5. Disrupted sleep and changing rest patterns. This sign often appears quietly. Many families notice it later than others. Sleep patterns begin to change. Bedtimes shift earlier or later. Night sleep becomes lighter. An older adult wakes more often. They turn in bed. They struggle to return to sleep. Mornings feel less refreshing. Getting started takes longer. Energy feels incomplete. Daytime naps become more common. Sometimes they are short. Sometimes they stretch longer. At first, this feels normal. Sleep changes with age. That happens to everyone. And sometimes, that explanation fits. But when rest no longer restores energy, something deeper may be unfolding. Sleep supports recovery in many ways. It supports physical repair. It supports memory. It supports emotional balance. When sleep becomes fragmented, recovery weakens. Fatigue carries into the day. Focus becomes harder to hold. Motivation drops further. Poor sleep also affects mood. Patience shortens. Irritability increases. Small frustrations feel heavier. Noise feels sharper. Stress feels harder to manage. Families may notice subtle shifts. A parent seems less tolerant. They become quieter. They may cancel plans more often. They may avoid conversations. They may withdraw earlier in the evening. Sleep disruption rarely happens alone. It often follows reduced activity. It often follows appetite changes. Less movement weakens sleep quality. Lower nourishment affects rest. Reduced stimulation disrupts natural rhythms. This creates another quiet cycle. Poor sleep lowers energy. Low energy limits activity. Limited activity worsens sleep. Over time, resilience erodes. One adult child shared a quiet observation. Her father began waking before dawn. He said sleep felt thin. At first, no one worried. He seemed calm. He seemed rested enough. Later, Other changes appeared. He napped more often. He avoided afternoon outings. Evenings became shorter. Mornings felt slower. Nothing dramatic happened. There was no complaint. Only gradual change. Sleep disruption also affects thinking. Memory feels less sharp. Concentration weakens. Decision-making takes more effort. Confidence softens further. The body responds as well. Balance feels less steady. Reaction time slows. This increases vulnerability during daily activities. Importantly, sleep changes do not always look concerning. They can look peaceful. They can look restful. Sometimes, they look like early nights and quiet mornings. That is why they are often missed. Noticing this sign does not mean forcing sleep schedules. It does not mean strict routines. It does not mean pressure. It means observing patterns over time. It means noticing quality. It means noticing whether rest truly restores. Because when sleep no longer restores, daily life narrows. Earlier awareness allows gentler responses. Responses that respect comfort. Responses that protect dignity. Simple adjustments can support better rest. Consistent daily rhythms. Daytime movement. Meaningful engagement. But these supports work best when changes are noticed early. When disrupted sleep continues unnoticed, recovery becomes harder. This sign often brings others together. Lower energy. Reduced appetite. Mental strain. Sleep sits at the center of balance. When rest weakens, the entire system feels it. That is why this sign matters. Taken alone, each of these signs can seem harmless, even reasonable. A skipped gathering. A shorter walk. A smaller meal. A forgotten detail. An earlier bedtime. None of these feel urgent. Together, they tell a different story. A story of life slowly narrowing. Not through crisis, but through quiet change. Aging rarely announces itself loudly. It reshapes daily life gently, often without warning. Most families miss these signs. Not from neglect, but from care and trust. They assume time will signal concern. Often it does not. These changes ask for attention, not alarm. They ask for noticing, not control. Awareness is not about fear. It is about presence. Noticing early allows choice. Choice allows flexibility. Flexibility protects dignity. Independence is rarely lost suddenly. It softens gradually. Quality of life follows the same path. Small awareness today can protect tomorrow. Not perfectly, but meaningfully. If someone came to mind while listening, pause for a moment. That awareness matters. If these reflections felt helpful, consider staying with us. Subscribe for calm, respectful conversations about aging. Sharing this video may help another family notice sooner. Sometimes, noticing is already an act of care. And sometimes, that is enough to change how later years feel.